We're going to go over several topics today, including what is TPS, original designation for TPS, TPS for employers, updates, again, not only for employers, but employees as well, and some alternatives to TPS. Then at the end, we'll definitely have time for questions. Feel free to use the Q&A button at the top of the screen. My name is Deborah Medina. I'm the lead attorney with Farmer Law PC. I have more than 10 years of experience working with business immigration, including immigrant and non-immigrant visas, such as H-1B and TNs. And I have been an attorney since 2021. So what is TPS? The temporary protected status is a temporary immigration benefit that is granted by the U.S. government to nationals of countries facing difficult times such as armed conflict, natural disasters, or other extraordinary conditions as deemed by DHS. Something to keep in mind is that TPS allows individuals to live and work legally in the U.S. only while that designation is in effect. So it could be very volatile since country conditions can change from year to year, and it's at the DHS discretion whether to extend TPS or not. Another key point is that TPS does not provide a direct pathway to permanent residence. So TPS holders must eventually find other ways to remain in the country legally. Just some numbers related to TPS. So far, it has been granted to nationals from 14 countries. Top nationalities: El Salvador with around 239,000, Honduras 76,000, Venezuela, which is the biggest TPS holders, around 350,000 across both designations. Venezuela has two designations, which are generally referred to as 2021 and 2023 designations. A majority of these TPS holders are employed in hospitality and food services, construction, agriculture, and some healthcare support roles. Again, TPS is temporary by law and is at the DHS discretion, and extensions are usually made in 6, 12, or 18-month increments, depending on DHS review. And again, when it's time to extend TPS designation, DHS will review the country conditions and determine whether an extension is something that needs to be done, and by how long. And we're seeing this in action this year with Venezuela and other countries that were deemed not eligible for extensions. So El Salvador, Honduras, Nicaragua, Haiti, Nepal, Syria, etc., Venezuela, DHS may extend or redesignate or terminate TPS programs at any time, depending the conditions of each country. And we'll have more updates on these key designations later in the presentation. So we know firsthand that employers rely heavily on TPS holders to cover immediate labor needs. But again, this is not a permanent workforce solution, but rather a short-term solution, right? Because again, TPS is temporary and can change from year to year. And it can be unreliable as it is granted by DHS based on the country conditions at their discretion. It can provide employers access to authorized workers and sometimes provide short-term relief while planning for the arrival of H-2A or H-2B workers, or while exploring other more stable options. So how can farmer enterprises help with this? AW Labor Solutions and Farmer Law PC, our support goes way beyond legal compliance. With AW Labor, they can provide strategic planning and execution of workforce solutions tailored to your business needs, including short-term solutions, addressing high turnover challenges, and reducing absenteeism and stabilizing workforce reliability. And they can help design a workforce model that balances short-term coverage, such as domestic EAD holders, and maybe some long-term visa programs, such as the H-2, the TN, or J-1. So moving on to TPS updates. As you can see, there have been some significant changes to some key designations, including El Salvador, which has been extended through March 9th, 2026. Haiti has been terminated, although their EADs remain valid through February 2026. Honduras has also been terminated, announced July 8th of this year. And EADs for Honduran nationals has already expired as of September 8th, 2025. Nepal also terminated very recently, and again, their EADs have already expired as of August 20th, 2025. Nicaragua also terminated as of July 8th, 2025. EADs recently expired September 8th, 2025. Venezuela, again, there are two designations. 2021 designation was terminated/restored. And the reason I say this is because there's still ongoing litigation for the 2021 and 2023 designations, although the Supreme Court has allowed the Trump administration to move forward with terminating the designation. For 2021, EADs are effective through November 7th, 2025. For 2023 designation, effective through October 2nd, 2026. Again, Venezuela is highly volatile at this time. There's ongoing litigation with the US government just going back and forth and trying their hardest to ensure that the designation is terminated. So we'll have to continue to keep you updated on how it all develops. But for now, these are the EAD validities to keep in mind, especially those with the 2021 designation and the upcoming November 7, 2025 expiration. So diving a little deeper into TPS Venezuela, as of May 19, 2025, the US Supreme Court has allowed DHS to proceed with ending the 2023 designation for Venezuelans. So immediate impact for the 2023 designation, TPS has ended, and workers under this program may lose legal status and work authorization. 2021 expire on September 10, 2025. Again, the EAD expiration dates are going to be different from the effective date of the TPS termination. So something to consider for employers, make sure you're reviewing EADs of Venezuelan employees. TPS-based authorizations may no longer be valid. And we recently also sent out a memo on the E-Verify's new tool, which is designed for identifying revoked EADs. So those workers who hold TPS for Venezuela, if their EAD has been revoked, E-Verify will notify you. So you can request new work authorization and fill out a new I-9. So make sure you're seeking legal guidance before taking any adverse employment action. And just encourage employees to check their eligibility for alternative immigration relief, which we'll cover. Another Supreme Court update that's not related to TPS, but it has affected a lot of employers and employees, is the CHNB parole, which is Cuba, Haiti, Nicaragua, Venezuela, which also provided humanitarian parole and work authorization. And on May 30th, 2025, the Supreme Court granted DHS permission to move forward with ending the CHNB program and related C11 EAD work authorization. These programs were launched in 2022 and 2023 with 2-year humanitarian parole and EADs. And DHS recently announced the termination of this program in March 2025. Again, stuck in litigation, it was blocked by a lower court and now was allowed to proceed by the Supreme Court. Some employees with the C11 EADs may lose work authorization, but it's important to note that there may be some C11 EAD cards that were issued that are not related to the CHNB parole program. So having a C11 EAD does not automatically mean their work authorization was revoked. So it's important to check I-9s, and again, the E-Verify tool will identify revoked EADs. Avoid discriminatory practices, especially since the CHNB parole program is based on nationality, like TPS, and make sure you consult with counsel before any employment action. And also ensure that you're encouraging your employees to monitor their MyUSCIS accounts, since notices of EAD revocations were sent directly to those accounts. So now some alternatives to TPS for employees. There are several options, and of course, this will vary depending on specific factors and the employee. So there are some family-based immigration options, such as immediate relative petitions for spouse, parents, or unmarried children under 21 of a U.S. citizen, and other family categories. Employment-based options, sometimes H-1B, L-1, or O-1, depending on the employee's qualifications. And employment-based green cards, if an employer is willing to sponsor for permanent residence. It is a lengthy process, but it is something that should be considered for a long-term solution. Humanitarian options, asylum is always an option if the individual fears persecution in their home country. And a lot of times, TPS holders already have pending asylum cases, which gives them access to an EAD through their pending asylum. So if they already have an asylum case, it's important that they know their options. U visa is for victims of certain crimes who have cooperated with law enforcement, and also T visa for victims of human trafficking. Again, TPS holders and your employees should consult with counsel to explore all these options. In terms of alternatives for employers, again, domestic workforce is always a good option, and AW Labor Solutions can definitely assist with recruitment. Workers with valid employment authorization documents, such as asylum seekers, DACA, humanitarian parole, permanent residents, or green card holders, and obviously U.S. citizens. And also the international visa programs that have been very successful, H-2B, seasonal non-agricultural work, H-2A for agricultural workers, TN, which are for skilled professionals from Mexico and Canada, J-1 exchange programs, which have a work and training component, and H-1B specialized professional roles. So these programs will allow you to build longer-term workforce strategies beyond TPS, and obviously farmer enterprises can help not only with the recruitment portion, but the legal portion as well. We do have some frequently asked questions, especially with this new immigration landscape. So what if my employee loses TPS work authorization mid-season? And this is a question that we see, especially with TPS holders from Venezuela and other countries that were recently terminated with very little notice. So if your employee loses TPS work authorization mid-season, they cannot continue to work. They must obtain another valid work authorization. So it's important to keep track of these EAD expiration dates and what's going on with E-Verify and identify any revoked EADs. Because continuing to employ these workers without valid work authorization could expose your company to liability, especially with this new administration's crackdown on illegal workers and an uptick in ICE audits and I-9 audits. So in some cases, the employee may have a pending renewal, automatic extension, or maybe an alternative immigration option that could preserve their ability to work. So it's important to review their specific situation right away, and obviously feel free to consult with counsel to explore whether there are other options. Again, with the uptick in ICE audits and I-9 audits, a lot of employers want to know, how do I prepare for such an audit? So it's important to always try to conduct an internal audit of all I-9 forms to make sure that they are properly completed and that supporting documentation is in order. And this type of internal audit will allow you to identify and correct technical errors before ICE requests these records or before an ICE audit. And it's also wise to establish clear procedures for handling government inquiries and to train HR staff on compliance requirements. And obviously, always consult with an immigration attorney so that you are prepared to respond quickly and minimize the risk if an audit does occur. Another question we get frequently is, which visa program best fits my industry? Going back to the visa programs we discussed, which H2, TN, J1, and honestly, the best visa program depends on the type of work your industry requires and the qualifications of the employees you need. So for highly skilled professional roles, options include H-1B, TN, or O-1. If your industry is seasonal or agricultural, the H-2A or H-2B programs might be a better fit. And again, we can always discuss those needs and make sure we're advising on the best program for your needs. So thank you so much for joining us today. Again, if you have any questions, feel free to use the Q&A button at the top of the screen. I will say sometimes we do have a delay in getting the questions on our end. So just give us a few minutes. We can also move the conversation to email if you have more specific questions that require maybe a little bit more attention. Feel free to email us to the email on the screen.